You know, like a lot of you, I spend a lot of time reading and listening to audio programs and attending events. And I really look for anything I can get an edge, you know, where I can be more successful and have better long-term chances of success. And over the years, I really came across what I consider to be the number one most important thing. You know, I want to just backtrack a little bit and tell you how I came about finding it. When I was 13 years old, I played a lot of golf, was a very good golfer. And my best friend at the time, Mike's dad, he was a doctor who was very, very successful. He was a surgeon. He made a lot of money. He'd come from a very poor family. He had gotten a scholarship to Stanford. He was a very successful guy. Worked all the time. And I saw him one day. He's writing stuff down in like a journal. And I was like, what are you doing? I don't know why I asked him. And he told me, oh, I'm doing goals. And so he showed me his goals. And don't worry, this is not a goal-setting thing, that they didn't work. But he wrote down goals, and he talked about his goals and about how, you know, this was his, you know, goals for the week, and then he had 1 year and 5 year and 10 year, and he had 20 years. He had really long-term goals and short-term goals. And so he showed me that. And I started applying that to mainly golf, but then school too, as far as getting good grades, as far as, you know, how many golf shots I was going to hit. One thing I learned then is I learned to focus more on the activity. So he actually looked at, like, look, if I do this many surgeries, then I'll make this much money. So I want to make this much money, I have to do this many surgeries. It was the doctor, but that's how he looked at it. So I started looking at, I had to hit this many golf shots, I had to do this much of this and this much of that. And I started doing goals, and I did goals, and they worked pretty good, but I found for me a lot of goals didn't work out so good. Anybody else? In fact, I found sometimes goals were really bad because I'd set the goals, and when I didn't achieve them, I'd get kind of depressed, and I'd give up. And so for some reason, for me, a lot of times the goals didn't even work. Came across Tom Hopkins, went to a thing he called the Tom Hopkins Boot Camp back in the early 80s. And I learned about activity even more because he really talked about you want to do goals, you know, you want to make this much money, you want to achieve this much, but lots of activity goals. And he was the first one who gave me the idea that you'd measure your wins. In other words, you'd have goals, you know, I'm going to do going to make 2 sales today. To make 2 sales, I need to knock on 50 doors. If I knock on 50 doors, I'm going to get into 4 houses. If I get into 4 houses, I'll make the 2 sales. So I would go ahead and do goals around the activity, and then I would reward myself. And I developed this huge file that had like index cards with my wins. So every time I got a win, it's like I felt better and I had more hope. You know, it's like things were moving forward. But it didn't all come together until I was in my early 30s. Now, one thing I did at 17, and I wasn't aware of what I did at the time. When I was 17, my dad worked all the time. And, you know, God bless him, he's in heaven now. I wished at that point in my life I could have spent more time with my dad, but it just didn't happen. And so I made like a vow to myself. And I was actually setting something in motion I didn't understand. I was totally serious, and it was a driving force in my life that by the time I was 32, I would have enough money to retire and not have to ever work again, because that's why I figured I would want to have kids around then so that I could always be there for my family. I didn't have kids. I had no idea who I wanted to marry or anything like that at all. But when I was 17, I put something in motion that I didn't understand. And I found out later how huge powerful it was. So I do lots of reading, I do lots of studying, and I spend a lot of time studying the scripture and going through it. Now, this is not a religious thing. Those of you that aren't into the God thing, that's cool. You don't have to be for this to work. Came across a guy named Solomon. Solomon was interesting, and I've read chronicles of him about the religious side, but also the factual side. So a couple facts. Solomon is, without question, the richest man who ever walked the face of the earth. To give you an idea how rich he is, in today's dollars, his gold alone, so just the gold reserves, not the mines, just the reserves, is worth well over $1 trillion. So, I want you right now, you know, Gates is worth, Buffett, he's worth around, say, 60 million. So, you know, Warren Buffett's worth, say, 62 million, I think it is today, but that changes all the time. So we'll call it 62 million. I want you to think where you are right now, financially. And I want you to compare yourself to Warren Buffett and his 62 billion, not million, billion. So you got you, and you got Warren Buffett with 62 billion. Okay. You are closer to Warren Buffett than Warren Buffett is to Solomon. So again, you're closer and richest to Buffett than Buffett is to Solomon. So, take all the biblical part out of it. Take any of the religious belief, because none of that works for you aside from it. And let's get to the facts. He was the richest man who ever lived. His gold was worth over $1 trillion. He had a huge standing army. He had huge crops. He had the granaries. He had the most of everything. At 12 years old, this is a historical fact, he became the king of Israel, which from his mind, and people in that time thought of it as God's country, for lack of a better word. So that was, and he was the king. He became the king at 12, and he grew it to be the most prosperous and successful nation that had existed. He was the richest man who had ever lived by far. And that's all historical facts. So whether you believe in the God thing or not, those are historical facts documented. It was about 3,000 years ago. It was 984 AD, I think it was, BC, before when he became the king. His father's name was David. He was the king before him. Now, the religious belief side, the Christian belief side, is that he says that when he was 12 years old, he got on his knees, he was overcome and overwhelmed, and he prayed to God. And what he prayed for was, help, wisdom to do this. And according to him, this is the religious side. So we got our historical fact, richest guy who ever lived, and he wrote some things. And we got our belief side that God actually came and spoke to him. You can believe that or not. I happen to. I believe it firmly. Whether you believe that doesn't matter from a point of view of getting rich. And God blessed him with wisdom, because that's what he asked for. He wanted the wisdom to rule God's people. And then he said, and because you didn't ask for me to, to smite your enemies, and you didn't ask for me to, judge people, and you didn't ask for me to make you rich and powerful and to give you, all these things. Since you didn't ask for them, I'm going to give you the wisdom, and I'm going to give you everything else too. And so he became the richest guy who ever lived. He wrote a book called Proverbs. And in the Proverbs, he wrote the essence of success. He wrote how to become rich, how to become prosperous, how to become successful in all your relationships. It's an incredible book. There's 31 chapters to it. A lot of people like to go out and they read one chapter a day, every day. They're real short. And what he came up with, though, is a way of living and techniques that have nothing to do with religion or Christianity, but have everything to do with what works. Now, to do this, first of all, we need to dispel two words. There's two words that are really, really important. See, when I was 17 years old, I set into motion a vision. By the way, at 30, there was no way in the world, logically, I was ever going to be financially free. And by 32, guys, I was financially free. Financially free at 32. It happened in about 2 years. I set it in motion when I was 17. See, because I didn't set a goal. I set a vision. And now vision, for a lot of people, vision is kind of a hairy-fairy thing. It's like, we're going to visualize and close our eyes, and we're going to think about what we want, and, go forward and all that. But it's not really concrete. So I think what we need to do, first of all, is give you a 3,000-year-old definition. Please write this down. I'm going to give it exact word for word. A vision is a precise, clearly defined goal with a detailed plan and a timetable for achieving that goal. Okay, so a vision isn't just, I hope this works out. It's very, very precise. It's very clearly defined, like a vision. You can see it. It's got a timetable, and it's achievable. Okay, so that's a vision. So it's very important that you have that definition down. So again, vision is a precise, clearly defined goal with a detailed plan and a timetable for achieving that goal. That's the 3,000-year-old definition, which is very different from ours. So you set up a vision. There's 5 steps to a vision. I'll get to those in a minute. You set up your vision. That's your big picture, the big goal, what you want. Then what you do is you apply a 3,000-year-old word that we use today, but man, we got it so screwed up, it's unbelievable. See, he talked about a word called hope. And for most of us, hope is just like, it's a wish. I hope I win the lottery. I hope things get better. Boy, I hope my wife stops nagging. Whatever your hopes are. So you have these hopes, but they're not really hopes, are they? No, what they are is their wishes. They're dreams. They're not real. There's no substance to them. It's just like, I hope it works out. If it does, it does. If not, it doesn't. Okay. I mean, people go like, I hope it all works out, but that's up to God. And like, boy, none of that was ever written in the Bible. That's not what it says. To understand hope, you got to understand the 3,000-year-old definition that Solomon used. And this is very important. You get this down. So again, write this down. Hope is a well-founded and confident belief. So very well-founded and very confident belief that a specific vision, which would be a goal, a desire, or a promise, will be achieved or fulfilled within a specified amount of time. So we're not going hairy-fairy here. We're saying that, look, this is what I want to do. I believe it can happen. I'm confident that it is. And why do I believe? And why am I confident? Because I'm going to do the things that need to happen to make it occur. And based on that, I've got a specific vision, my goals, my desires, my promises. I believe they're going to be fulfilled. So hope is huge different than most people look at. And you need to understand that, because if you can marry hope to a vision, you'll have success like you've never seen before. Hope is the fuel, guys. This is what keeps us going. See, if I had had a goal, just a goal to have my retire at 32, there wasn't enough belief that it could have happened inside of me for it to have happened. You know, now I look back and go, damn, I should have just made it 19. But I did, and I made it 32. And at about 30, I started to get things in motion that really made it happen. But it had always been that vision. I hope you're following the difference between a goal and a vision. And then what I did is I applied hope. See, hope is the fuel. Hope is like putting gas in the gas tank. If you don't have gas, the car doesn't go. If you don't have hope inside of you, you don't go. So there's 5 steps to a vision. The first thing is we decide on the vision. It's the big picture. And by the way, people go, John, do you do this? Damn right I do this. We were in my office with the people that I do business with around the world. We were in my offices in November and December of 2007 doing the vision for 2008. For some of them this year, there were people that had never done the process with me. And it was like big picture. They want to get into details and boom, boom. We will get to that. First step first. What's the vision? What's the big picture? And then from the vision, that's the first step, we broke it down into the goals. Okay, so these are the goals that we want to accomplish. We want to do this, and we want to do this, and we want to do that. Then we broke the goals down. We broke them down into specific tasks. That, you know, to do this goal, I need to do this, and I need to do this, and I need to do this. And then we defined them one step further and broke them out to the more detail of what needed to happen. And then the 5th step is we put a timeline on it, a timetable. So that, you know, we're going to do the big vision this. For this to happen, we need to hit these goals. These goals are broken down into steps, and when the steps need to, they're then broken into specific tasks. So we have the detail to fill it in, and then we have a timetable for it. And if you get this vision and get it put together, it is so much different than a goal. And then here's the thing is we add hope. Not today's hope. I hope I win the lottery. I hope my wife doesn't rag on me anymore. The real hope, which is based on my well-founded and confident belief that the specific vision, you know, the goal, the desire, the promise will be achieved and fulfilled within a specific amount of time. So, yeah, I hope I win the lottery. Well, one of the big things would be to buy a ticket first. So, you know, I'm looking as a real estate investor. I want these things to happen, so I'm going to do the hope part. I know that I need to make 20 written offers to get a deal. I know that I need to look at 100 houses to understand the value. So I break out the tasks I need to do. And they're my hope. Every time I do the activity, my hope tank gets filled. If my hope tank stays filled, I'll do my vision. If I just have goals without hope, life's going to get in the way. It's going to smack me down, and I'm not going to do it. This applies to all areas of your life. So I have a vision for a couple different companies that I have. I have a vision for a relationship with my children. And I have one for my relationship with my son and one with my daughter. I have a vision with my marriage. I have a vision with my relationship with God. With the hobbies and things I like to do, I have a vision of what I want to happen and how those happen. And if you put together the vision, and then you fill that vision with hope, and you follow the specific steps, you will have, I promise you, no, I guarantee you, that you will have results that you've never had before in your life. Whenever my life is off track, it's because my vision isn't there. When my life is on track and I'm having the highest results, the vision is in place, the people around me are part of that vision, we're a team and we're moving forward. Vision is the #1 key to success. Most people on the planet don't have one, and so they just go through life struggling. And if you think about it, Christian or not, you already know the words I'm about to say. Without a vision, the people will, perish. Most people today live their life perishing. They go through life existing, very unhappy, kind of happy, trying to talk themselves into being happy. They're not accomplishing great things. They're not doing great things. They don't have great relationships. Their life is filled with stories and excuses. And the reason is, and they don't even get it, they didn't understand the major lesson the richest guy who ever lived left for us for all time, that you must have a vision or you will perish. You fill the vision with hope. Lack of hope is cutting you off and dying. Solomon talks of hope as the tree of life, literally a tree that gave life. You learn to fill your life with hope towards a big vision, and you'll accomplish that which you've never, ever seen possible. That's just a couple quick minutes here to tell you about what I consider to be the real biggest secret that ever existed, creating a vision, filling it with hope. It's John Burley saying thank you, and God bless.